All right, so this is my ranking of the bench players for the 2023-2024 NBA season. And, like I said in my other videos, I based the starting lineups off of ESPN's projected lineups and depth chart right before the NBA season. So, some of these bench players may end up starting, and some of these starters may end up being bench players, but you know, this is just what ESPN had listed at the day before the season started. So that's what I got going. I have some honorable mentions here. We got Chris Boucher, Larry Nance, Kelly Olynyk, Gabe Vincent, Jay Crowder, Davion Mitchell, Alex Caruso, Eric Gordon, Ochai Agbaji, and Marcus Morris. So now we get into my top 50 who I'm going to be ranking and talking about more. 50, we got Dante DiVincenzo, so I think he's a good scorer. That's really all he has to do. He's a decent shooter, good scorer. For this New York Knicks team, I think he's a solid piece for their bench. At number 49, we got Alec Burks. He averaged like 17 points per game last season. Numbers might be slightly inflated because, Cade Cunningham didn't play at all, so I think this year he will take a step down because Cade Cunningham is back for the season, and they drafted Oscar Thompson, so he's not obviously starting now this season. He was starting last year, so he should have a lesser role this year. At number 48, we got Trey Murphy III. He had a pretty solid year last year. I think we'll just continue to build off of that this year. Maybe average close to 15 points per game off the bench, which will be really good. But other than scoring the basketball, he does not do much. Number 48, we got Isaiah Joe for the Thunder. He's a really good shooter. He shoots 40+% from three, scores decent amount, plays decent defense. So, yeah. Number 46, we got Kenan Martin Jr. So, he was for the Clippers. Now, with that James Harden trade, he's on the Sixers now, but I don't expect anything different happening on the Clippers versus the Sixers. I think he's a good scorer. Good shooter. I think he definitely has good potential. I think he should. I think someday he has the potential to be a 20-plus point per game scorer. But for this season, I'm expecting close to 15 points per game and a fairly efficient 15 points per game in that. At 45, I got Isaac Okoro for the Cavs. He was starting last year. Now I got Max Strus starting in his spot. I think he's a really good defender. His offense needs some work. His efficiency isn't horrible on offense. He's just not a great offensive scorer. Not a great facilitator either. It doesn't really need to be because they got Garland and Mitchell on their team, but on their bench unit, they could stand to use a facilitator outside of Caris Levert. So Isaac Okoro definitely could get better at that. Number 44, we got Christian Braun. So he had a really good, not really good, he had a pretty solid postseason last year. His regular season was okay. His postseason is where he looked a lot better. He looked like he definitely improved over the course of the season, and I definitely expect him to take another jump this season. I think the Nuggets really need that to happen because they lost Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, so they need guys like Christian Braun to step up and fill in their roles. Number 43, we got Tim Hardaway Jr. He is obviously a good scorer of the basketball. Everybody knows that. He can go out and get you 20 points any night. He's just not the most efficient with it sometimes, but he's still really solid and really reliable bench scorer. Number 42, we got Mason Plumley. He doesn't do a lot. He's good. He's a good amount of rebounds, good amount of points, and he's actually a really good passer for a big man. He averaged like 4 assists a game, I think, as a center, playing like 20 minutes a game. That's really solid really solid production out of Mason Plumley. 41, we got James Wiseman. He's I think he's a decent role player. That's basically his ceiling right now because he has not shown much of any level of stardom or even close to that when he was drafted, the number 2 overall pick, and he's not shown any potential of being even close to an all-star level type player so far. So obviously that's not great, but I think it will be a solid role player for a good amount of seasons. Just nothing too special. At number 40, you got Precious Achiuwa for Toronto. So he did start a lot of games last season. I don't think he's going to be starting games this season. I don't think he needs to be starting any games this season because they did sign Jakob Poeltl to be their center. So Achiuwa does not need to be starting. I think he's definitely better off the bench. He's a good defender, not the best offensive player, but he can definitely improve on that. At number 39, you got Kyle Anderson. You got Slow-Mo. He's a good scorer, good shooter, decent rebounder. So I mean, he's definitely a reliable option. Just Slow-Mo. Number 38, you got Danilo Gallinari. So he did not play at all last season. He tore his ACL or whatever. He was on the Boston Celtics, but he tore his ACL and never ended up actually playing a game for them. So he has not played in 2 years, which is obviously, definitely hurts him when you're talking about rankings because, you don't know if he's going to be the same player 2 years later. And, the injury might have affected him because he is getting up there in age, and an ACL injury to an older player is not, usually not kind. But he's just a shooter. I don't think an ACL injury is going to make him a worse shooter. So I still think he'll have a really good season. At number 37, we got Ayo Dosunmu. He's a good player. I think he started a lot of games last year, but now they got Kobe White starting. I think Kobe White's better than him. So I think he should be coming off the bench. I think he's a solid player. I think he's not a great defender, but he can definitely improve there. Offense is a little bit streaky shooting sometimes, but he's still young. He definitely has a lot of time to improve. I do think someday he'll be a solid starter option for maybe not the Bulls, but for some team out there, but just not this season. Number 36, we got rookie Anthony Black. So he's a rookie. I'm not expecting a whole lot out of him, but I do think he will surprise a lot of people this season by having a pretty solid rookie year. Number 35, we got Donovan Wright. He shot really good. I believe he was 50+% from the field and like 44% from 3 last year. He shot really efficiently. I don't expect the exact same efficiency numbers, but I don't expect him to drop too much. I think he'll have a really solid year again. I believe he is still on the Wizards, and I do think he'll probably be traded by the deadline if he continues to have a 50 plus and 40 plus splits this season, because he's going to be more valuable to a contender than he will be to the Washington Wizards. At number 34, we got Jonathan Isaac, who played a couple games last year, but he didn't really play a lot because he was injured. He was injured for like 2 whole seasons, then came back and then barely played because he got injured again. So it's really been a while since we've seen Jonathan Isaac play a significant amount of games, but I still expect him to be a decent player. His defense should still be pretty decent as long as he has the same mobility as he had, because all his injuries were lower body injuries, so that definitely could hurt him a little bit, but I feel like he can still come back and be a really solid role player. At number 33, we got Dwight Powell. I mean, he's really a very efficient player. He doesn't really shoot a lot, but he does make most of the shots he takes, and he's a good rebounder. Not the best defender, but solid defender. He does what he does, and he's really good at it. At number 32, we got Kelly Oubre. I think he averaged 20 points a game last year for the Hornets, but that was when LaMelo didn't play a lot, Gordon Hayward injured a lot, so he got a lot of shots. But now for the Sixers, he's not going to get as many shots, but he definitely could still average at least 15 plus points per game coming off the bench, being a really solid piece to their team. Number 31, we got Grady Dick for the Toronto Raptors. I don't think he'll start out the season doing very good, but come like January, February, I think he'll definitely improve because he's a shooter. That's what he is. He's a shooter. Usually rookie shooters don't start out very well because they got to get adjusted to the NBA flow and stuff. 3-point line's obviously farther back, so it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust. But I do think after the first few months, he's going to prove to be definitely at least a serviceable 3-point shooter for the Toronto Raptors. Number 30, we got Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish was solid for the Knicks last season. I think he'll do much of the same for the Lakers this season. The Lakers could definitely use a 3-point shooting wing because they did not really have a lot of that last year. Number 29, we got Caris Levert. So he's going to be the main bench option, the main scoring option for the Cavs off the bench. Obviously, he can average 20 points. He can give you 20 points any night. He's not going to average 20 points, but he can definitely give you 20 points any night. I expect at least 15 points per game for him. He's a really good shot creator, very good scorer. It's not the best efficiency, but he's really, really good scorer for what he needs to do. Yeah. Number 28, we got Luke Canard. He shot extremely well from the three last year. It was over 40%. I expect the same out of him this season. Don't expect any regression from him for any reason. So, yeah, I think he'll still be a really solid 3-point shooter, which is all he really needs to do for this team. Number 27, we got Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's a really good scorer. He can average, easily 15 plus points per game, efficiently as well. 40+% from the field for Bogdanovic isn't exactly unheard of. If he can do that, he can have a really good season off the bench for the Hawks. Number 26, we got Al Horford. He's getting up there in age, but he's still a really solid player. He's still a serviceable offensive player. He's a good rebounder, good defender. He is coming off the bench this year. At least he's supposed to, they said, because Porzingis is starting at center. So Al Horford is definitely one of the better backup bigs in the league. And I think he will definitely be better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. Number 25, we got Gary Trent Jr. He's a good scorer. He's decently efficient, but he does not do anything else outside of shoot the ball. And, he's a good shot creator. But, outside of score and shoot threes, he doesn't do a lot, but he is good at what he does. Number 24, I got Cavon Looney. His offensive rating and stuff is insane, but, I'm not going to lead too much into that. He's a very good rebounder. He can average 12 plus rebounds off the bench, but I'm not completely sure if he's going to be coming off the bench anymore because my ESPN depth chart that I looked at before the season started had Cavon Looney coming off the bench and Draymond Green starting at center. But now what they've been running was Chris Paul off the bench and Cavon Looney starting at center. So, that might not necessarily be accurate to have him as my bench player here, but, whatever. Number 23, we got Mo Vagner. He's a really good scorer, really good shooter. He definitely... All he has to do is really shoot the ball for this Magic team. He's really good at that. He can create his own shot too, which is a little bit strange because a lot of bigs that are shooters don't really create their own shots a lot of times, but Mo Wagner can. Number 22, we got Christian Wood. He had a really good season last year. I do not expect that same. He had like 17 points a game. I don't expect that for the Lakers. Mostly because, I don't think he's going to have as big of a role, and he has to play more into the Lakers system, who is not exactly the best offensive team. They try to slow it down on offense and try to win a defensive matchup. And Christian Wood is not the best at defense, but, if he can learn from Anthony Davis a little bit and, just be a sound defender and still be a pretty solid offensive player, he can be good for the team. Number 21 is Caleb Martin. He's a really good scorer, really good shooter. We saw that in the playoffs last year, so that's all we really got to see. As long as he can keep up the 40% from threes like he did in the playoffs, he'll be a really good player for this team. Number 20 is Jonathan Kaminga. I expect a jump out of him this season. The Warriors are expecting that too. They kind of have to because they lost some depth. They don't have a lot of depth outside of, they have like Chris Paul off the bench right now. That's really good. But then after that, they got like Moses Moody and Jonathan Kaminga, who have to really step up from last season. And I think Jonathan Kaminga definitely is going to do that. And number 19, we got Terence Mann. So he was supposed to be, I don't know if he's coming off the bench or not, but that's what I got here. And he's definitely a good player. He's a good scorer. I'm just not sure if he's going to be coming off the bench now that he is. And I don't know, Russell Westbrook maybe coming off the bench. Terence Mann maybe coming off the bench. Not completely sure. Number 18, we got Jordan Clarkson. He's a really good scorer. He can average you 20 points per game on this team. I'm not sure he's going to do that this season because I think, Colin Sexton is going to score more, and Jordan Clarkson is going to take a little bit of a lesser role because of that. And Taylor Horton-Tucker is going to score more, and they're going to cut into Jordan Clarkson's minutes probably a little bit. He's still a really good scorer. He's definitely he can definitely get you a basket. Like if I want one player to get me a basket right now, Jordan Clarkson is probably in the top 10 because he's just really good at getting a shot if he needs it. Number 17, I got Rui Hachimura. He played really good in the playoffs, so I'm expecting much of that same production. He did really good once he got traded to the Lakers and in the playoffs. He wasn't great for the Wizards, but he got a lot better for the Lakers. So, yeah. Number 16, I got Malik Monk. He was a really good offensive player for the Kings in the playoffs. I think he averaged 20-plus points per game in the playoffs, which was really good for him. So I expect him to not average 20, but to average a very efficient, 16-plus. Number 15, I got Norman Powell. So he's a really good player, a really good scorer. He can average 17-plus points per game. Even on a team now that has James Harden, Kawhi, Paul George, Westbrook, I still think Norman Powell can average you 17-plus points coming off the bench. He's a really good scorer and shooter. Number 14 is Bobby Portis. He's a really good two-way big. He does not rebound the ball as much as you probably would hope. Your backup big to rebound, but he scores the ball really good and he plays pretty solid defense as well. So you can't really be complaining too much. Number 13 is Trey Jones. So he's kind of like Tyus Jones, but I think he's probably better than Tyus Jones. I definitely think he has more potential to be like a scorer than Tyus Jones. His assist turnover ratio is about the same as Tyus Jones. Like he has that same potential, but he just has better offensive scoring potential and defensive potential as well. Number 12, we got Nassir Reed. He's solid backup big, very efficient scorer, and a very good rebounder, decent defender as well. Number 11 is Josh Hart. He played really good in the playoffs last year. He averages a good solid 15 points, but 7-8 rebounds and a few assists, and he's a good defender. And he played FIBA ball and played really good in FIBA ball as well. Number 10, I got Shaden Sharpe. I expect him to take a decent leap this season without Dame on that team. He should be a really solid player for the Trailblazers this season. I expect him to average 15-plus, on pretty solid efficiency. Number 9 is Brandon Miller, a rookie. I expect him to be a pretty solid player this season, probably inefficient, but I bet he could average close to 18 points per game inefficiently, but, still pretty good performance for a rookie at least. Number 8, I got Jaden Ivy. He did not play great last season, but I still think he'll have a efficiency bump this season. I think he's taking a lesser role because they got Cade Cunningham and Oscar Thompson in the lineup now, but I think a lesser role might help him to be more efficient. Number 7, I got Cole Anthony. I think he probably should be starting over Markelle Fultz. I think he's probably better than him, but both of them about the same level of player. Cole Anthony's a good scorer, good facilitator, good shooter. So, yeah. Number 6, I got Amen Thompson, the rookie. I think he'll have a really good season. I think he will start out not great, start out very inefficient, but I think he will start to come February, January, start to have way better stats, way better efficiency. So, yeah. Number 5, we got Onyeka Okongwu. He's supposed to have a big improvement this season. Coming off the bench, they don't have John Collins anymore, so they don't have any other real big on their team. So Okongwu he's basically the same type of player as Clint Capella. I think he has better offensive potential, though. I think he's going to have a really good season. Number 4, we got Buddy Hield. He's a really good shooter, really good scorer. I expect him to average close to 20 points per game off the bench for them this year. Number 3 is Malcolm Brogdon. He's a good scorer, good shooter. I do not expect him to be on the Blazers past the trade deadline because a contender is going to like him more than the Blazers will. Number 2, we got Robert Williams. He was a really good player last season. He's a very good defender, pretty solid on the offensive end too, and a good rebounder. So he's just a really good player, and I'm not sure if he's going to be on the Blazers past the trade deadline either. Number 1 is Emanuel Quickley. He played really good last season. He could average 20-plus points per game off the bench, and he's a really good defender too. So, yeah, that's what I got. Thank you for watching. If you haven't watched my point guard through center videos, make sure to watch those. I got a top 100 ranking coming out, and then make sure to watch my NBA and NFL power rankings later this in the weekly videos there.